You can see the hostility that they have indirectly towards Palantir, even though Palantir is not on the stand, right? So right now, I would say this to if I was Alex Carr, I'm telling you, I have always been the advocate, split Gotham off, screw the government revenue portion, focus on commercial, be like, look, we don't give a crap about any of this stuff anymore. The revenue will, trust me, in 5 years, 10 years, when Foundry is 10 times as big as the government, that puny government revenue is not going to matter. Being involved so heavily with the government comes with so many inherent risks, so many, literally, it's all politics. You can't even be neutral in the way you do things. Like right now, Palantir signed like a minor contract with ICE, and all of a sudden, Palantir is helping target immigrant children around the world. It's like, dude, come on. I understand the more, like CARP trying to be like, oh, we want to protect Western democracies and everything else. But dude, you can only do that honestly as a private company. I think right now the best thing to do, split Gotham off, turn that into a private company, and move Fallon and use whatever
Yeah,
remains.
but
of
if they
Palantir
did
as
that,
Foundry.
that would gut their numbers during the next earnings. Like, I don't even see that as a possibility.
Who cares? It wouldn't drag down the numbers because then your growth would be 100%. There you go. You're the new snowflake, right? You don't have that giant government anchor holding you back. Yeah, sure. I mean, in the short term, you see value compression, but guess what? There have been times where by splitting the company, you generate more value because you don't have the portion that's dragging you down. I mean, look at IBM right now with their Kyndryl division, right? They took their division that's more legacy, split that off, kept the one that's growing really fast with Red Hat, and their valuation is a lot better now, right? Because now you're a high margin SaaS business that caters to commercial clients. You don't have the stink of working with governments anymore. You don't have the lumpiness of government revenue anymore. You don't have to deal with hearings on nonsense like this. You don't have to deal with the extended sales cycles of dealing with government related things. I personally hate the government contracting business. I would never get in business with the government. There are certain vendors who've literally spent years and years, maybe even decades, cultivating relationships on the Hill in order to get these lofty contracts. But dude, it's the US government right now, any democracy right now, you're going to have a tough time dealing with the bureaucratic nature of how everything is. So I would say right now, and this is why a lot of companies don't want to work with the government. Why doesn't Google work with the government? Why doesn't Microsoft work with the government? Why doesn't Amazon work with the government more? They literally just said, you know what? You can keep your money. We don't want to work with you. Sometimes that counterparty risk is well worth it to not have to deal with. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but me, I don't give a crap about the government revenue. I just say, cast that shit to the side.
So, see, I have talked about Palantir more than 100 people, even before I invested in Palantir. And, I always hear three things. That you talk to somebody and they say, dude, isn't this a company that spies on everyone? That is first. And then you say, no, it's not like that. But you know that guy, I mean, he's like a right arm, right-wing weirdo. I said, who? I said, Peter Thiel. They said, why do you think it like that? Oh, because he supported Trump. Now, these three bullets and these three statements I have heard for over 90 people. Now, when you ask further, then these people are blank because they don't know what the company does and who is Peter Thiel and why he supported Trump. Okay. So when you suddenly see that people have opinion about these things, but they do not have any background, it actually tells me that there is a focused and concentrated effort to spread the FUD about the company. And you can test it next time when you talk. So a lot of people come and they say, oh yeah, I mean, it's doing this, it's doing that. So what it is doing, I mean, tell me, man. I mean, let's talk it in detail. Okay, if this company is helping government, so what do you want? I mean, like, for example, I was seeing this statement from Eric, ex-CEO of Google, and he was saying that government is not doing enough in terms of 5G and they are losing against China. Man, what were you doing when you were CEO? You were not working with government. You were working with universities where the data and the technology was leaked to adversary countries. So why you are now coming and complaining about it? What do you think will happen that if you don't help government and the other countries keep getting all the effort and all the technology from their own country plus from your own your company and what to work against US government? What do you think will happen? Okay, so it is true. It is I mean, it is given at this particular point that what we see the criticism of company in the mainstream media There is almost 10 to 20 times more effort has been put in the shadows to spread more FUD about this company. We have seen the example of Rosker, but I have seen example on several of the specs. People go, oh, this is not a good company. And why it's not a good company? Oh, because it works with New York police. Seriously? I mean, this is how we are going to judge. If you have issues with the police system, I mean, that means you need federal institution to correct the institution. Okay? I mean, what do you think? I mean, are you going to cancel everything in your life that is going around it? Okay. So, and this is a very popular narrative at this particular point. Or they steal the data. Okay, if they have stolen the data, why there is no DOJ investigation on them? Why they are not sitting in front? Why Alex Karp was not sitting next to Mark Zuckerberg in that Senate discussion? Because if they wanted to ask question about Palantir, they needed the Palantir CEO sitting there, na? Why they didn't have because there was there was no evidence to implicate him. There is literally Palantir CEO has never went to Senate if he has done all those things. So this is all BS. I mean, in all opinion, and people can do whatever they want to do in terms of their political line, but you have to be very concerned when the company. So Palantir is not a social media company. If tomorrow Facebook goes down, yeah, people will be hurted, but yeah, world will still go on. Now, if Palantir gets things wrong, I mean, you can eventually end up in a war and in a diplomatic situation, guys. It's a high impact scenario. So before somebody starts opening their mouth about the company is doing this and that, please try to do some study about it. I mean, there are a lot of things bad about Palantir, and we can talk about that. Okay, we can talk about like they have not invested enough in the sales force when it was needed. They actually had a view that the product will sell on itself. They actually spent more time on product than the go-to-market channel, and this is what Alex has discussed in the recent call as well, that they need to still figure it out how to sell the thinner version of the product and to reach the people so that we can lower the entry barriers. These are the things Palantir has to be criticized, because these are right elements for, and this is where we want to see them doing more work. Okay, but I mean, for things they have not done and they are not liable just because of a political narrative, I think it's embarrassing. And anybody who's doing it, okay, I find it it's below our level.
That Chamath meme is hilarious.
I want to address that comment that's right there. The global war over AI is why Palantir will always be in government. I don't think so. First of all, involvement with the government probably slows down your progression. Yeah, some of that financing for the last 15, 17 years was probably good, but I think you got the technology. You got what you needed out of the government. They paid for you to develop that product. Now you have a fully refined product. Get out of it, And Edge AI has parts of Project Maven probably. And see, that was the other thing. Think about it. Google, how much money did they leave on the table and leave? Palantir has also lost talent because of their involvement with the government. I think right now the idealism is coming from Peter Thiel and Alex Karp rather than the employees. I think some of the employees are probably like, man, I don't want to be affiliated with this. I mean, I do understand the need, and I applaud every Palantirian, every Hobbit, whatever they want to call themselves, for working with the government to try to make us safer, make us all this other stuff. But that's me as an American saying that. Me as a shareholder, I put on a different hat and I say, look, there is a value proposition to being not affiliated with the government, not having to deal with the nonsense of being affiliated with certain parts of that. That's all I'm saying. As an American, Palantir, thank you for protecting Western ideals. Maybe you can do it as a private company with a different like business model, right? Where you are a dedicated government contractor, where you're actually developing software for the government, right? But I think that has to be split off. If they don't split it off, I think that's going to drag their commercial to a point where it's going to take a much, much longer period for Palantir to realize its true value. And I'm probably wrong about that. I'll be honest. There's part of me that's really like conflicted in even saying that, right? But at the end of the day, whenever I look at this, I knew the minute that the Democrats got in power, I was like, this is bad for Palantir. Literally, I was just like, the first thing I said to myself, I was like, man, do I really want to invest in Palantir? Because now I know these Democrats who have hatchets out for Trump and for Thiel, who supported Trump, they're going to come after this company. And it's the same thing that's going to happen when Republicans get power in the midterms if they get control again. You think the Republicans are not going to go after Google and Facebook and all these other companies that have been silencing their conservative, like what do you call it? Yeah, Twitter. You think legislation is not going to come? Every Republican right now who gets elected, they're going to be chomping at the bit to regulate big tech. So that kind of stuff, I'm not a big fan of. Where literally you have to be worried as a person as a shareholder because of what your company does in relation with like some of the policies that deal with political issues. I would rather invest in a company that's very neutral. I've picked Palantir because I believe in its technology and I think they can overcome a lot of these hurdles, but I don't know. Sorry.
See, the way I look at it,
I ranted a
the
little.
way I look at it is, no worries, man. I mean, that's exactly why we are here. See, the one of the reason they have this founder share because they knew that this debate will eventually come to split the business at some point of time. So, given that the founder shares are with the selected founders who have very clear view that they are going to work with commercial. So, even if it makes a lot of sense, I think probably it will not happen. So, this is something that will drag stock down, and it will attract a lot of how do I say, like, stigma around it. But I think that is something you might have to live with. I think the most important part is and this is probably like why I invested in Palantir is that, in my view, the promise of Palantir is that they can do things almost few multiple times better than rest of the companies can do together. So that is something they have to focus. See, look at the guys. Like, I mean, like, for example, like, what happened to the German companies during Nazi occupation? Okay, a lot of time we see that companies like Mercedes, I mean, we claim them. I mean, like, people say that they were with Hitler, and these companies keep claiming that we were there because we didn't have a choice of there. Okay, so the question is that, do you want a government that forces companies to work with them, or do you want companies that eventually voluntarily to work with government to build better society? Now, what has happened that things should not be this complicated, but Silicon Valley has taken a route where it says that working with government is evil. And you know why it is popular nowadays? I mean, if anybody has any assumption or thoughts about it, that everyone in Silicon Valley in these big companies had not even a single employee is infiltrated to spread thinking and propaganda from US adversaries, guys, this is fool's errand. When you see there is a company that can even control the narrative of mass public, of course, I mean, adversaries will implant their people into certain position, especially a vibrant economy like US, which is accept a lot of migrants. And of course, and at the end of the day, some of these philosophies in these companies are corrupted. We like it, we don't like it. And but why it happened? Because see, before the advent of Silicon Valley, like, if you see the companies like IBM, okay, or if you see the companies like EMC, how they started cutting edge technology while working with government grants and with government defense and NASA. This is how it used to happen. And over the time, these companies actually figured it out how to productize or commoditize these technology for a lower cost base for a mass public. This is how radio started. This is how Wi-Fi started. A lot of technologies that we talk about it. I mean, nobody was building semiconductors and microchip, and especially the most famous 4004. It was done for the government purpose first. Okay, this is why mainframe computers were done, and eventually the technology was miniaturized for everyone else as well. Now, when the Silicon Valley started, they started companies that was not working with government. They started with a very different idea. Okay, and a lot of these companies were looked down by the traditional companies. I mean, IBM used to look down on Microsoft. IBM used to look down on Apple because we work with government. These are just some new guys, hippie guys coming and building something. So there was always this culture in Silicon Valley that over the time has been harnessed to work against the government. Okay, and somehow there is a view that they are the only one in the world who have solution for all kind of social problems. And if you don't agree with them, then you are a right wing, you are an extremist, you are a fascist. I mean, somebody has to call them back. Okay, because it's actually at the end of the day is going to hurt global economy. And Palantir has taken the mission. Is it easier mission? No. Is it going to hurt them? Yes. Is it going to hurt as an investor for a long time? Probably yes. But it is. I mean, if you are in Palantir, that means you are in Palantir along with this mission. So whatever comes with it, good or bad, you have to take it.